Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Shields. I'm the Associate Vice Provost of Academic Affairs here at WCTC, and I'd like to welcome you to WCTC's campus. We're excited to host today's live edition of Wisconsin's WisBusiness Talking Trade podcast right here on our campus. For more than 30 years, WCTC has been a leader in international business education, offering Wisconsin's only global business associate degree. About 7 years ago, that foundation evolved into our supply chain management program, which continues to integrate global content, covering everything from U.S. import and export regulations to global logistics and trade finance. The Talking Trade podcast series has been highlighting international business and logistics topics since 2020, featuring industry experts and now live events like today's. We're excited to welcome Talking Trade co-host Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of EM Wasylik Associates, panelist Sandi, Siegel, President of MED Day, whose company has long supported WCTC and hired many of our graduates. We're also proud to have panelist Jake Boniface, one of our own global business alumni, and now serves on our Supply Chain Advisory Committee and works at Eaton. A special thank you to Sue Dragotta, Supply Chain Management Instructor at WCTC, for coordinating with Sandi to bring this live Talking Trade event to campus. We're grateful to have you all here to join in this conversation about global trade, and I understand for many of you it's probably a class requirement, but we're glad you're all here. And to talk about global trade, logistics, and the future of supply chain. Please join me in welcoming our panelists and the Talking Trade hosts.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that introduction. It's great to be here at WCTC. Sandi and I, as co-hosts, really like getting out and doing these live events throughout the state of Wisconsin. As Mike mentioned, we've been doing this for 5 years, and the hot topics are always on international trade, and both of us are in the business. And so it's great to be here, and so we welcome everybody here. Today, we're going to be talking about the current status of international trade and tariffs being a big part of that discussion, and then how it reshapes supply chain, impacting Wisconsin importers, Wisconsin exporters, and even hopefully at the end we'll see if were any new opportunities in unexpected places across the board. This program is brought to you by our sponsors. Without those sponsors, we would not be here. So we'd like to thank our sponsors, Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin, Carroll University, Michael Best Strategies, and the Wisconsin Center of Manufacturing and Productivity. To give a little bit more background on our expert panelists, we'd like to introduce all four of us. Myself, I am the Managing Director of EM Wasylik Associates, a company that my father and I started 27 years ago to help small, medium-sized companies expand their international business. And we have offices in Wisconsin here, Illinois, and Minnesota. I was asked to be the moderator and also the co-host of Talking Trade. To my left, my good friend and business partner here, Sandi Siegel, is the president and managing director of MED, a customs broker and freight forwarder. She earned her business degree at Cardinal Stritch University and is a licensed customs broker and certified customs specialist. For over 40 years, she's been in international trade and trade compliance, and she loves being a part of the Wisconsin trade community. And I would say MED is the biggest supporter of all the international trade associations and industry organizations in Wisconsin. So thank you, Sandi, for joining us. The best part about it is she's my co-host and the better of the two of us. So, adding to that is Jake Boniface, as Mike mentioned, he's a graduate of the Global Business Program here. He got his graduate degree at Marion University and is currently the senior buyer at Eaton Cooper Power Systems, where you began your career as an intern, and now you are a manager of the global supply chain, ensuring that's a supply of unprecedented global growth of three-phase transformers. So that internship really worked for you. You got the job, and now you got promoted. Congratulations there, Jake. And of course, WCT's own Sue Dragotta, who teaches global business and supply chain here and facilitates export compliance workshops for the college's corporate training center. And prior to WCTC, she was the export development manager at the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and worked in international sales, focusing on Latin America. And she, too, is a licensed customs broker. So it's great to have you on the panel here, Sue. So to start off, what I would like to do is kind of give you let's set the stage here. International trade is bilateral, and it's multifaceted, and it's not just a bunch of goods going back and forth. It's much more than that. And what that is there's a financial report called the balance of payments. And what the balance of payments is basically shows the amount of money coming into a country and the amount of money that's going out of a country, and in what category and for what purpose. So if you can look at the trillions of dollars on a daily basis that come into the United States or go out of the United States, there's various factors to do that. Tariffs is only on one segment of that, those trading balances. So let's just go through the balances. So let's look at the money flows. When does money flow into a country? And in this particular case, let's talk about the United States. So the first one is exports. So this is pretty well understood. Something is made here. GE Healthcare makes a medical device, ships it to Australia. The Australians pay GE Healthcare here in Waukesha, money coming in, exports coming up. So basically the sale of goods. But there's also the sale of services. And this is where, things, construction, architecture, brokerage, banking, information. This is where services and these type of services are done here in the United States, but are sold to individuals outside the United States. So again, very similar to sale of goods. There's a service performed outside, money is coming in. One of the services that kind of gets lost is these services that are actually performed here in the United States that are not necessarily that, how do you say, parentheses. So, but it really generates a lot of money coming in. Tourism being a classic one. So Wisconsin Dells or the UP or somewhere else where Canadians are coming in, the Canadians are bringing their money into the United States, services are being done. Brazilians going to Miami, Mexicans going to Disneyland. These tourist points is a very important part of the balance of trade because it brings in trillions of dollars, billions of dollars every year to actually balance this business of trade. Consulting is another one. So we have clients that are in Europe. We do the work here in the United States. We bill them. They send money from Europe. That's a consulting. I'm an exporter. Doesn't look like I'm an exporter, but my company is an exporter. On the other side, there's transfer payments. Transfer payments are payments that are made for a particular purpose. So in my case, my mother-in-law worked in Germany. She emigrated to the United States in 1957. She was due a pension from the German government, very similar to Social Security. Every month after she turned 65, she got a payment in her bank account from Germany. That's a transfer payment coming in. So again, money coming in, not really any services being done, but money is coming in. And then we have direct foreign investment. So this is a big thing, especially for a lot of, for the state, for example. We're trying to attract direct foreign investment. So fundamentally, let's look at Foxconn. It's a Taiwanese company making $1 million of investments, hiring jobs. we're looking at Korean companies, now other companies, very much capital investment by non-U.S. citizens coming in and building businesses here in the United States. And then finally, we have portfolio investments. So this is always a good one, is that foreigners are buying our securities. So foreigners that are buying shares in GE Healthcare, for example. And a classic example at a very micro base is my wife and I were in Niagara. We were coming across. We stayed in Woodstock, Ontario. We had dinner at the Charles Dickens British pub in Woodstock. Our waitress found out that we were from Wisconsin. She goes, "I love it. You guys are Packer fans. I am a shareholder in the Green Bay Packers." Okay, so sure enough, here's a Canadian resident, Canadian citizen owning a U.S. security, and that would be under this portfolio investment. And then finally, it's reserve assets, and we let the economists handle this. This is transfer payments between central banks at the very, very macro level. So, for example, President Trump just suggested that the United States is going to support Argentina's money supply. This is where the reserve assets would be. On the other side is the money flowing out of the country. So just the reverse would be imports. And here, this is where we always focus on a U.S. citizen buys something that's made in China. The Chinese, it's imported. We send money to China for those particular goods. We see this all the time of import of goods, money flowing out, goods coming in. Same with the services. There might be services that we buy outside the United States that are done by companies in London or Tokyo or Hong Kong that we send the money to pay for those services. Similarly, tourism. So U.S. citizens going to Europe for a holiday, us going to Cancun for the getting out of winter. Money is being sent out. Experiences are being done in those foreign countries, and now the money is being sent out back here. This is really kind of interesting because people don't really think this is an important factor of the money flowing out of the country and the imports, but it really is. So if you bought a house, if you spend your 3 months in Costa Rica, this is where it's being affected from a money standpoint. Same with transfer payments. Classic transfer payment would be a Mexican immigrant milking the cows up in north, somewhere around here. He gets a paycheck. He goes to his electronic payment service company, sends $500 to his family down in Mexico and wherever, Guadalupe. That's a transfer being sent outside the United States. And then finally, direct foreign investment. So if there's a U.S. company investing overseas in a plant, building, that's money again. And then finally, portfolio investment. So if you're a 401k plan and you invest in a international mutual fund that invests in international securities, that's where you are on the balance of payment. And finally, we have reserve assets. So this is the report is very detailed. It goes quarter by quarter. It has a lot of line items to it, but at the end of the day, tariffs only affects one line on this entire report, but it really affects every single part of it. So if there's a trade war with Canada and the Canadians stop coming here for their holidays or spending money at the border buying U.S. products on the U.S. side, this really affects it, even though it really doesn't show up in the tariff segment. So fundamentally, tariffs are only on imported goods, but really affect every part of the money flow.